All right, I call to order this meeting of the Sturgis City Council on Monday, April 21st. Please stand and recite with me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on our agenda is approval of our agenda for tonight. Is Councilor willing to make a motion for approval of the agenda or add or omit items?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
We've got a first by Alex and a second by Ruth to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the approval of the agenda as presented indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carried 5-0, and tonight we have a couple absences. We got some people out of town. Item 4 is announcements and praise. Jim, you've been helping us with that. Are you willing to cover that tonight?
Of course. Thank you. Are we ready?
I think so.
We do have several things tonight. The Municipal Utility Board is going to meet tomorrow. That's Tuesday, April 22nd at 7:30 tomorrow morning. Sturgis Public Library is closed all day, Monday, April 28th. That's a week from today, so that our staff can attend a library conference in Rapid City. The Sturgis Library Board meets at 4 o'clock on Wednesday. That's this Wednesday, 4 p.m. Spring citywide yard sale is scheduled for Saturday, May 3rd. The deadline for Women's Softball League sign-up has been extended to May 4th. Auditions for My Fair Lady at Grace Lutheran Church will be 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. this coming Sunday, May 4th, and 5 p.m. Is that this coming Sunday? No, that's the week after. Between 5 p.m. to 6:30 on Monday, May 5th. No advanced preparation is needed. Just, as Deb says, just come ready to sing, dance, and read from the script. Please make sure your calendar is fairly clear for Monday through Thursday evening rehearsals through the end of June. That might be a challenge for us. Drop off your plants or garden-related items on May 2nd or May 3rd for the Green Thumb Gala at the Sturgis Public Library. And then you can join us for the week of May 5th through the 9th to take part in the silent auction. It'll wrap up at a reception on May 9th from 3 till 4:30 p.m. to see if you're a winner and celebrate with fellow plant lovers. Sturgis Public Works crews are preparing for the 2025 Sturgis Spring Citywide Cleanup. That'll be scheduled for May 5th through the 9th. Sturgis City Council will meet, what's this one about? Oh, I just got that. 6:30, as always, Monday, May 5th, and that's the night that we'll seat the new council and elect new council leadership. So that's the next meeting after tonight. And just as a note, the Sturgis High School graduate Tom Miller now lives out in the Faith area as a rancher. Later this summer is going to be inducted into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Thought that would be nice to recognize him for those of you that will know him.
Thank you, Jim. Do we have a pastor tonight from the community?
Apparently not.
Okay. Jim, are you willing to lead us in a prayer tonight?
I will do that. Lord, thank you for the men and women who work for this city, who work hard for the citizens. And thank you for this council and for the time we spend to put together what we consider to be the best for the city. As we go into tonight's session, we ask for wisdom and temperance in the way that we present ourselves to each other and to the city. Thank you, Lord, for all that you've blessed us with. Amen.
All right, continuing on our agenda, item 5 is non-agenda matters that may...
Mayor, just one more announcement. You know, Jim was being,
I'm not always the most up on Facebook, but it seemed like it was pretty current, Jim. I mean, you had something else that's happening big in your life here pretty soon too, right?
Well, yeah, eventually.
I'm not talking about that part. Okay. Aren't you nominated for the Hall of Fame yourself?
I am, yes. But
Well, congratulations.
thank you. Thank you.
Outstanding. Congratulations, Jim. We have any other announcements and praise before we go ahead and push on? Any from the audience? Thank you. We'll go ahead and push on then. Non-agenda matters that may come before council. Is there anyone that has an item that is not on the agenda that they'd like to address the city council on? Yes, sir.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not here to complain, but
Yeah.
I am here, so.
Can you state your name for the people that are joining us online? And
Yeah, my name's James Quinn.
Yes.
And I live over here on Pine Street. I just wanted to kind of note that I think Deb had something in the newsletter or online. This VA hospital here is celebrating its 80th year milestone here in Sturgis. And it was funded in 45 and built in the next year, or funded in 44 and built in 45 for about 675 people. And obviously, as you can see, coming out of World War II, it was built as a psychiatric hospital. And so it's been serving our community since that time as the largest employer as far as I could find. Fort Meade is now part of the Black Hills Healthcare System, which has Hot Springs, Fort Meade, and 10 clinics in 4 states. It's all part of Black Hills Healthcare System. In comparison, Montana has 1 VA hospital in Helena, and we've got a big one in Sioux Falls and ours here, and then Hot Springs and clinics all over. I'm kind of in a place where I'm kind of a historian, but I had an assisted living over here for 20 years across from your high rise, and I had mostly veterans, men, and I've made hundreds of trips out to the VA with those guys for their health care. And I do have to say that the way Fort Meade is put together with the general practitioners and all those specialty clinics that can serve these guys coming in, or men and women from all over, north of Bison or wherever, it's a big bonus to have those services all in one place. Plus, the Fort Meade and the DAV provides transportation for anybody that can't get here on their own. So again, that is a big thing if any of you've ever taken care of elderly people, to have a way to get to the hospital and then have all their appointments back to back. I think that's one of the big strengths here, plus the fact that I've found that the doctors and employees are very attuned to the patient's needs. I know in bigger VA centers that because of the sheer numbers, it just can't be that way. But Fort Meade really has a one-on-one relationship with a lot of their patients. The DAV does a good job with helping transport, and we have a veteran service office here in the courthouse, and that helps with certain things for the guys getting benefits or trying to get into the state veterans home in Hot Springs. I was kind of background a little bit with the fact that, you know, everybody's worried about everything in Washington, what's going to happen to government facilities. But I've been told we have a very strong system here for our VA and our veterans. And if we hadn't had a very strong system with Hot Springs and our VA here, we wouldn't have a strong of backing with our congressional delegation. I mean, you never know when something's going to get cut, basically. I mean, the VA has lost some employees across the country, but I think ours is in pretty good shape. I know that, I don't know who did it, but all of that campus out there was put on the National Trust for Historic Preservation in 1973. And the VA and the city have co-opted on a lot of nice things. There's a beautiful trail out behind the VA for people to ride bikes, walk, take horses on. And it's quite an attribute for the city. I guess that's kind of it. I mean, I just want to recognize they've been here so long, been the steady employer. And really, as a fabric of our community, so many of those people that retired from the VA continue to live here. And so the effect of the VA on our community can't even really be measured. I mean, besides the immediate impact of the employees, the veteran services, the VA disability, all of those things, that's direct. But the indirect impact is all those people that still live here and call Sturgis home. And I don't have any kind of numbers on how many people have even been employed there for that many time, but generally their employment levels is north of 300, and that varies. But so a lot of people worked out at the VA, retired from the VA, and I will also say, and then I'm going to cut myself off and leave, that there's one thing about Sturgis and this VA, and I think in most smaller areas, they really try to cover a person, to find them housing, to make sure they get to the doctor, and just, hopefully find them a job if possible. But I know a lot of the guys I took care of, because I had a lot of psych patients and I had guys, their average age was 65. So I didn't have frail elderly people. But a lot of those people in different parts of the country would have been living on the street. And our VA does a great job of trying to keep people in housing. Of course, that's always a big challenge too, to find housing for every other group too. So that's kind of, I know the guys out at the VA, more than one have said that the strength of the communities, Hot Springs and Sturgis and our state delegation, to protect, if you want to call it, or recognize our facilities here is very important. It's very important, and the communications. And they're, this VA put in, I don't know, a few years ago, $10 million in a new surgical suite. And they're always doing new programs, and I couldn't give you a list of them all, but they're doing everything that they're getting the new programs the VA is coming out with, because we are remote out here, so they don't want people having to go to Denver or Minneapolis or whatever for certain types of services. But I just wanted to make that note, since it's been 80 years since Fort Meade transferred over from a military post to a veterans hospital. And between Fort Meade being military and, it was kind of split number of years. It served the military for X number and then the VA for 80. So it's been a split use purpose. And then the land they set up, the National Cemetery got some, city got some, the county got some of the land when the military establishment was dissolved, you might say, and just become a VA hospital. So Sturgis has benefited a lot from the post and the VA. So that's all I'm here to say. I don't have anything to complain about. I hate to do that. Not come without something to whine about, but even our street looks good and our community looks good, and I think we all need to recognize the importance of the VA, the veterans. And I talk to people out there, they say, no, it's the veterans. And I say, yes, that's true, but if we recognize the veterans, we have to recognize the people that take care of them. So that's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Jim. That's definitely a good amount of information on the VA hospital. We talked about that.
I know Deb put a good background on the establishment of the hospital, transferring over from the military to the, it didn't all happen at one time. And the original hospital burnt down, so then they built another one, and then they built another one. So it's been there a long time, and all the buildings out there are really neat if you haven't had a chance to walk around. And that trail out behind it is a very nice attribute. I hope more people would know about it, but it's a beautiful place to walk and ride bike and ride a horse and whatever.
Thank you,
All right,
Jim.
thank you.
The VA hospital certainly serves not just our community, but those from multiple states and
Yeah,
those
states,
around
they
us.
got
So,
10 clinics.
thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else from the audience? Yep.
I'm Lee Stroshine, and I live at 328 Main Street. And I don't know how many of you counselors have driven on East Main this spring, but it has gotten worse. Since I moved on to East Main 10 years ago, it was rough, but this winter has made it worse. I know a number of years ago, there was a big project that was planned by the city to rebuild East Main and East Sherman. And I'm just curious as to if that's still on the plans to be done, and if so, I'd be curious as to when it is. And if it's not on the plans, I ask that it be considered and be done before this street gets too much worse.
Lee, it's certainly still on our capital improvement plan. And, you know, we understand that that street needs work. We've got some other streets as well that are on the capital improvement plan, and we're trying to work through those situations. You know, Aaron, can you add to that in any way?
No, it was on the capital improvements plan. You know, obviously, Lee talked about, we were looking at doing that a couple of years ago. However, the cost of it, and based on where we're sitting at financially, was not able to do it. We did have it on the 5-year plan. I don't remember exactly what year it was. This one's probably the most expensive project that we had on the capital improvements plan. And so we had to be somewhat creative in determining, you know, how we would actually, you know, pay for that. We do get our 9/10 of that 1% that comes in each year. It's equal to about $2.4 million, but that's across all projects. This one, if I remember, Rick, this is a couple of years ago, but it was $7 million, and that was a couple of years ago. And so again, it's on the project, and that's one of our opportunities, is to be able to determine how we would be able to execute that project with the capital improvements or other types of means to be able to get it accomplished. But I was on it here, going up to the cemetery about a month ago, and yeah, you have to go relatively slow. It's a really difficult paved street to be able to transverse. So absolutely understand your perspective.
Okay, well, thank you. I just wanted a little bit of an update and make sure that you guys are aware of that it's getting worse.
We're certainly committed to trying to make sure that every street gets the attention it needs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dustin, I think you had your...
Okay, I'm Dustin White. I own White Canvas at 1324 Main Street. At least I think that's the address. It's just down there. So I have two things I want to address. The first, I'm just looking for an adjustment to my utility bill. So we moved in there in August. I contacted sanitation at that point, told them that I did not need 2 commercial garbage cans. We produce almost no garbage. They told me that they'd look into it, get back to me. I finally got it figured out in March after I contacted Ann directly through email. She figured it out for me. And I now do have just a regular tote. But what that tells me is that throughout that entire 7-8 months, I could have had a tote. Instead, I was being charged for 2 commercial garbage cans, which we did not use, and that we couldn't use half the time because they're kind of a public garbage. Half the time that we'd go over there to try to throw something in there, they were full, so my garbage went home with me, which, I mean, half the time it did anyways, because I'm not walking a block and a half with a 55-gallon bag of trash. So I'm just looking for an adjustment on that, because I don't think I should have been charged $120 a month for a service that I had requested that we don't have, that we didn't need to have, and that clearly, now that I have a regular tote, wasn't required of me. Oh, yeah.
Well, that's certainly, I think, something that we can work through with Public Works. I mean, is that your view of that, Darren?
Yeah, it is. I've been trying to touch base with Dustin, but just over the last couple of days, as I reviewed the challenges he had, I agree, I think he has cause. He reached out to the city back in August and let them know about his situation, and for whatever reason, that information did not get down to Public Works to be able to execute. He followed back up with Ann in March, and at that point, Ann sent it over to Public Works, and within a day, they had taken care of it. But that time from August to March, I don't think the problem was on Dustin. I think the problem was on the city of Sturgis. So I need to sit down with Dustin and kind of figure out what we can do to make this right.
Okay. Is that reasonable, Dustin?
Yep. And I just want to say Ann was fantastic with that. I mean, she got right back to me. So, I mean, I understand, like, the city's been going through some stuff, so I get it. I just want to say Ann was fantastic. Really, like, she got back to me, like, I think it was within, like, 6 hours. So it was just amazing.
Great. You said you had two things, Dustin?
Yes, so the city has a official Sturgis motorcycle website. And if you look at the history on there, it says that the rally was canceled from 1939 to 1941 due to the war. Pearl Harbor happened in December of 1941, which meant that we didn't go to war until 1941. So it's impossible for the war to have been the reason that we wouldn't have had the rally from 1939 to 1941. So I think that is an embarrassing mistake that's on the official website. The website in the history timeline also says that we started the rally again in 1942, when in fact the Black Hills Motor Classic Inc. in January of 1942 said that they would not have a rally until the end of the war. And I mean, they legally could not have had a rally until until the end of 1945 because it was illegal to have races throughout the United States. So I am proposing that the city changes their official website, the motorcycle rally website, to not have that glaring mistake on it, because it's embarrassing, and it, like, if you brought that to any history class, you would be failed. So it's a very embarrassing mistake.
Dustin, you have been in front of the council before with this same information. Would you be willing to write up the corrections so that we could run it through our rally and events committee and you know, figure it out, if you will, so that we can, I mean, we definitely want to be accurate with our information that we're sharing.
Well, in this one, I'm not actually proposing any major change because, I mean, I'm still of the view that the rally's a year younger than what it is. And, I mean, I will die on that hill. But this one is just getting the dates right. I don't even care what days you say that it's canceled as long as it's after 1942. Because, yeah, we went to war in December of 1941 is when we went to war. So
we had the rally in 1941.
yeah. Yeah, we had the rally all the way up to there. It was canceled 1942 on. So I can definitely write down just a little thing on that.
I think that would be helpful. Do you agree, Deb? All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Is there anyone else that has a non-agenda item that they'd like to address the council on? Bonnie?
This is my chance to drop this chair down.
I won't be able to see if you make it any lower.
Yeah, but then I can't see you if it's up. Anyway, Bonnie Albert Sturgis, and with the announcement of the citywide yard sales followed by the cleanup, I would just like to ask, I think at this time is a good time to speak out about the cleanup, what it takes to get your stuff picked up, what your stuff should be to be picked up. Does that include tree branches? I've had a lot of questions this last week, and I was thinking we had one more council meeting before cleanup, but after Jim gave the calendar dates, I thought, woo, that has to happen tonight. Next week is too late. So would Rick be willing to give us a little profile of what we should be putting out to participate in city cleanup and not have it be problematic to the guys? That was a yes or no question. I was wondering, you could have said
Do you
no.
have any specifics?
Well, okay, tree branches?
So yeah, we will pick up small piles of tree branches. You can always take up loads of tree branches are accepted year round for no charge at the rubble site. But we will take up small piles. What we don't want to see is where we get commercial vendors come in and cut down a whole tree and then leave it for us to pick up. Again, we're trying to get 5 days worth of cleanup done in 4 days and 4 hours. So, make sure that your stuff is placed curbside on the day of your garbage day or a day earlier. Sometimes if we're able to, we'll go into the next day, but we'll always be by your property on your garbage day. If you can have things sorted for us, that makes it easier. Most of what we're taking goes up to the rubble site. So again, the construction debris needs to be separate from the metal pile, because they go in different places, just like they do up at the rubble site. That's where we're dropping them off at. If you have any appliances, please have the EPA form attached. If it's a refrigerator or dryer or whatever, just put it inside.
And what's the EPA form?
That says that it has no contaminants in it, whether it's like a refrigerator that it has no Freon and it's properly been disposed of. We can't accept them at the rubble site until that's been done. So we have to keep that documentation for when we're inspected. We have to show that to the state inspectors.
And I know how to get one of those because I've gotten rid of a fridge, but,
I have a link to it in the newsletter coming out.
okay. Oh, it's not out yet. I was going to say, maybe I'm looking in the wrong place.
And it's on our
haven't seen it.
website too. All of the information on what we do accept and what we don't accept is on the sanitation website under the cleanup week. Those forms are on there. We don't take any tires. Tires, we can't take them because we have to pay to get rid of them. So you can take them to the rubble site, but there's a charge for them.
So we could pay you to pay to get rid of them in order to get
You
rid
can
of them?
take them to the rubble site.
Okay.
We're not going to accept cash in the alley, or at least I
No,
hope we're
no,
not.
no.
But no liquids. I mean, the same things that the rubble site accepts is pretty much what we accept. Everything, any liquids have to be dried out. You can leave the paint containers open. You can put kitty litter in them, whatever, to make them so that they're not a liquid. There's nowhere, Rapid City, Belfouche, nobody can take liquid except liquid items. So
Okay, 'cause
battery, I mean, pretty much the same rules apply as that are in place today. We're just coming curbside and picking it up.
So they need to look on site to find out on your website to see under,
And it will be in the city's,
Sturgis information
the
page.
information publication this month too, in advance of cleanup day. So all that information,
Actually in last month. All those details
Yep.
were in last
oh,
month.
were they? Okay.
yep.
I don't remember
And yes,
seeing it.
there's, the specifics are all on the website as well.
Well, I'm a frequent flyer at the Rebel site.
You are.
So,
You are.
but a lot of people are not, and it just
Yep.
helps you if we know while we're doing our house cleaning and sorting and putting things out, what do you mean by a curbsite?
I mean, we want to be able to stay on the public right of way. We will not go onto private property to get items. And if you have valuables or heirlooms, move them away from the right of way. Because we've had that happen too, where we went through and picked things up and it's like, well, that wasn't set out. And it's like, well, it was in the boulevard. I mean, but, so again, if there's things that you don't want us to take, please make sure that they're removed from the alleyway or from the right of way, as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Bonnie. Quick statement, it's not just cleanup week, it could be recycle week, because put it out there early, your neighbors might actually pick it up. Is there any other public comment on non-agenda items? Any of the council have anything they want to bring up? All right, moving on. We don't have any department updates tonight. A mayor's report, I'd like to congratulate Robin Korth as our Deputy Finance Officer. Continuing on to the consent agenda. We have a extensive consent agenda, item 8.1 through 8.10. Is there anyone that wishes to remove any item on the consent agenda and have it considered separately? Anybody from the audience that wants to have one of the 10 items on the consent agenda removed and considered separately? No request to remove anything from the consent agenda. Is there anyone willing to make a motion on the consent agenda?
A motion to approve.
I'll second.
First by Ruth, a second by Nick to approve the consent agenda in its entirety. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carried. Item 9, approval of the claims.
Kevin, could I say one thing before we move on? Just that this consent agenda was a great calendar filler. I mean, this is the time to go to our personal calendars and put those dates on and know that they're coming instead of finding out at the last minute.
Bonnie's comment was that the consent agenda this month or this meeting was a great indicator of what's going to be going on in the community through the summer and to use it as a calendar reminder. Thank you. Item 9.1 is claims. Does anybody have any questions or concerns on the claims?
Just a comment. Thanks for the council. You know, we've had several questions that came to us asking questions about information that's contained in the claims. And we appreciate that because it gives us an opportunity to always work on process improvement. The things that we need to get better at is the first one, if you look underneath the description, you know, have more detail. So you don't necessarily have to ask all the questions, you know, most information is there. So I've worked with the staff, they've been working through what that process looks like, and, you know, that's our commitment, is to do better on providing those descriptions. The second part of it is just ensuring that, you know, going through this myself, there's a few of these that, you know, obviously very valid bills, but are they in the right department? Are they in the right account? And vast majority of them are good, but there were a few out there that that is not correct. And part of that is just going through, working with Robin, who just became our new deputy. She just got into actually doing a lot of this stuff, but this is not on Robin. This is, you know, all the people that spend money. They're the ones that those departments get those invoices. And when they put those invoices, you know, make sure they're putting the right information in there. And as that information moves up to the finance department, we need to make sure that the information that they're providing is that we're sticking in those descriptions, and then going back and make sure we're getting it in the right account. There's a few of them that you look at it, goes, that's, you know, it seems like that would be more of a repairs versus a professional fees. And that would be an accurate statement. So again, I just want to throw that out there. The more that you guys provide quality control to us, the one challenge with claims, and one of the things I would like to try to get better at as a team, is we are usually putting those claims together right to that last day. We're trying to get all the bills paid as we're trying to finalize the agenda, get that published. Well, once it's published, that's usually at the end of the week. Then we come into that next Monday and we're right into this week. So maybe there's an opportunity for us to push that back a little bit. I need to socialize this with Ann and her team and the department heads to make sure that makes sense. But to me, I think it would be beneficial if we could push that deadline back. Then that gives us an opportunity to review those claims, kind of make sure that what's going to be attached there, it has all the complete information. So again, it's really about maybe the process of when we do it to give us the time to actually do that review. That's not how it's been. Hasn't been that way for a long time. Even when I sat on council, they would put that right at the last minute. When you put it at the last minute, you don't necessarily have time to review it. So those are probably the three things that that we will continue to work on and make improvements on.
Thank you, Aaron. I think the better job that we do on the claims, the more transparent we are with our expenditures, and also it helps us with our budgeting process because we're being responsible to the individual line items for the expenditures. So, anybody have any additional questions? Was there some corrections made then in the claims, Aaron?
You know, if you look at the very first one at Northern Hills Vets Clinic, that one is not the right account. That needs that 3,600. I'm not sure what 3,600 is. I think that came from the input, and again, that's where we need to do the quality control, quality assurance when it gets up to us to make sure it's going into the right account. That there is an account for that. If you go into the budget for animal shelter, underneath professional fees, number 3 underneath that, it talks about those kind of bills for pets when they're going over to the clinic. So that one needs to be pushed into a different account. If you look underneath the mayor and the council, there are some of those, the supply maintenances. I did provide some information back to the mayor that provides details on those. I'm sorry, I don't have them with me at the moment. Those Adobe subscriptions, those really should belong in my budget because those are for myself and Deb. When we're editing and making adjustments to documents, that was put in the mayor. I understand how that happened. If you look at over the last couple of years, when as the director of communications, Deb has always been counted against the mayor and the council's budget. And even from a pay perspective, she's half in your budget, half in the budget that I have. And so a lot of this is just legacy, just as how it always done in the past. We've had some conversations that, since we have a different form of government, we do have a city administrator, you are in the administration aspects of it. There are certain things, for example, one of those was purchasing card stock. And those were for, I think there was 3 or 4 of you that got business cards. The mayor got some business cards. She's able to buy that card stock relatively inexpensive and was able to provide those cards. So that makes sense. That would go against your guys' budget. But those things that are not supporting you specifically, but supporting us as a staff and supporting the operations that I'm responsible for, would make sense for those to be in my budget, not your budget. So those are, on that first page, some examples of that. There was a question under buildings we have GNR controls, repairs and maintenance. A lot of times we have a contract with Rassman to provide those repairs, but this one was not a mechanical repair. This was a programming repair. And so this company had the specialization to be able to do that piece of it. It wasn't a mechanical piece of it. There's another one under an economic development business improvement district. It's a Blue Peak expense. It's utilities. We do have Blue Peak that's down there, but should it be against the economic development business improvement district? I don't know. I got a question mark on that. When Ann recovers from her injury here, hopefully tomorrow or the next day, I'll sit down with her to make sure that we got that in the right account. There are some of them on travel and training, both in the police department and also for sponsorships. I validated all those were valid trips that was approved by me, and we just need to be able to put the information in there. All we do is put travel and training. You already know it's the travel count because that's what it says. So again, that's one of the opportunities to make sure that we're providing more information when it comes down to description. For example, if you look underneath community center, there's a lot of repairs and maintenance. That's the description, and again, that's in the repair and maintenance, so you probably don't need to have that told to you twice. I did work with the department head and got each of those repair and maintenance on what those are, and I did provide those to the mayor. So that's kind of it in the nutshell, but again, we see this as an opportunity to improve, and again, as you guys are doing reviews and you see information and you ask that information, it's an opportunity for us not just to be able to provide you the correct information, but it's an opportunity for us to have an understanding, okay, maybe why did they have to ask that question? What can we do differently to make it better?
Okay, so we really only have one coding change, or a couple, based out of that mayor and council stuff.
I'd say there's 3 to 5 that need to get.
And they're in that,
And I have notes on those to visit with Ann when she gets back in to make sure we get them in the right account.
is the council okay identifying that we've got some coding changes within those budgets? And proceed with approving the claims? Okay, thank you, Aaron.
Roger. That was military, sorry.
Does anybody have any other questions on the claims? Bonnie, you've got a question?
Just a couple little. And I'm having trouble finding them because my screen is popping up this unprotected Wi-Fi, but Aaron, you'll probably recognize. I saw one in there for Helix Solutions, and what do they do for us?
That's
I
for
looked
our,
up the company, but I couldn't
well,
tell.
we've had the cost expense for quite some time. They changed their name. They used to be, how do you pronounce that again? Economatize was the name of it.
Oh,
And so
okay.
through December, it was always Economatize, and then starting in January, they changed their name to Helix. It's basically allows our superstore to function, the point of sale to be, it's the architecture to make it work. When we're doing registrations, this allows us that, to be able to do that. One of the things that we've been looking at is when it comes down to the superstore, you know, there are some things that we're probably going to start ramping down with the superstore. Currently, we've been selling merchandise for several years. That's really not our intent, is to be able to sell merchandise. We still have some. We're going to do a fire sale at some point, get rid of that stuff, but not buy more. But this allows us to be able to have that purchase. When we were doing our bricks, we have an ordinance for selling bricks. This is that part of that. They would go into this superstore, and this would be the architecture for that financial transaction to occur. So,
Well, and that.
again,
that
we've had
was-
it for a long time. They just changed their name.
I looked at what they did and I couldn't figure out how it hooked up. And so, okay, now you just said when we were selling bricks, are we no longer selling bricks?
This year we have sold bricks, but going forward, our intent is not to sell bricks anymore.
I need to buy a brick. Is it too late?
Well, for you, Bonnie, you know, I'm sorry, I'll have to ask the mayor there, but now I'm sure we can accommodate.
Well, I mean, I just heard
we're-
that.
Right now, we basically have shut that down, except we are allowing employees that wanted to, but we can accommodate that, Bonnie.
Okay, I'll get on that then. There's a line here on page 6 that says March billing for LEC. What is LEC?
Law Enforcement Center.
Oh, okay. I said before, I'm acronym challenged. I could spend days trying to figure that out. Okay, and then, this is the one I can't find again now, but there was a string of water refunds. What was that? They weren't negatives.
It's usually overpayments, Bonnie. So if somebody final bills or if they move, they usually take their deposit and apply it towards their balance. And if there's any extra, we send it back at the end of the month. So
Okay.
so they come out to a zero balance.
Okay. Well, and I want to say, the fact that I've been pretty silent about claims for several months here is an indicator of how much better these explanations are working. I just haven't needed to ask the questions. I look and it makes sense, and so, you know, it doesn't pop the bell. But, so thank you for that. I mean, I understand it's not all together yet, but it's getting there, and I really appreciate what you've done to make those changes, because those were my questions, and I felt like they were kind of nuisance questions, but they were need-to-know things. So thank you for making that tweak.
Well, I'll pass that on to Ann, because she's, you know, at the end of the day, she's the most responsible for that.
Good, good. And then the one more thing that I noticed that I wanted to say is that I see, and maybe I just never noticed it before, but I just want to commend the whole operation on shopping at home. I see Ace, Runnings, Lynn's, Napa, Owens, and I haven't necessarily noticed that before, but I notice it now, and so I just want to say, way to go. I mean, that's what we want. That we want ourselves to be shopping at home as well, and that's a good example that the city is giving. That, you know, sometimes it is $1 cheaper to run a Rapid for it, even with the gas, but you're not doing that, and I'm appreciative of that.
Thank you, Bonnie. That certainly is important, and our purchasing policy reflects doing business at home. In fact, provides a cushion to allow us to spend a little bit extra to make sure that we have those businesses in our community.
Well, and I know we've talked about it, and I've seen that come by, but tonight I noticed that it happens.
Good. Anybody else have any questions on the claims? Somebody willing to motion the approval of the claims?
I'd move to approve with the coding changes as needed.
Second.
We had a first by Nick and a second by Alex to approve the claims with the few coding changes needed in the mayor and council segment. Does anybody have any additional discussion that we want to hold? Those in favor of that motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, that carried unanimously tonight. Continuing on our agenda, item 11.1 is consideration of use of city property for the Northern Hills Community Band at Harley-Davidson Rally Point for 2 concerts. Those concerts are Sundays, June 22nd and July 20th.
Okay, I am Barry Furs, and I have lived in Sturgis for about 40 years at 1233 Deadwood Street, and I was a superintendent of schools. One of my other jobs is the chairman of the board of the organization that sponsors the Northern Hills Community Band. And as the mayor just said, we have 2 concerts at Sturgis, June 22nd and July 20th. We used to have our concerts every year in the city park, and then they built Harley-Davidson Rally Point, and we got pressure to move there, and we did. We get excellent crowds, and we now understand that we have to get city council approval to waive the fees for us to have the 2 concerts at Rally Point. So we're here to request that.
Thank you, Barry. Kind of to review, a couple of years ago, the city administrative side put a fee for use on Rally Point. Obviously, there's a process that the council can go through to waive those fees for the types of uses that they might deem appropriate. And I think we have actually waived the fees in the past for the...
We have not paid any fees. We've simply played our concerts, yes.
Yes. Anybody have any questions? I've been to the concerts, and they're good.
Christopher Hahn, who is the library director of the city of Sturgis, is also our band director. And so we think we put on good concerts, and we get bigger crowds at Sturgis than any place else.
Outstanding. Hearing no discussion, is somebody willing to motion the situation on the fees for use of Rally Point for these 2 concerts?
I will make that motion.
Second.
Motion to waive the fees, Jim?
Yes, please.
We got a first by Jim, a second by Alex to waive the fees for these use of Rally Point for these 2 concerts. Is there any further discussion?
I'm wondering maybe instead of, because I think we've waived every one we've ever done, could we just do, I don't know, like a deposit? If they clean up after themselves, they get their money back. So we don't have, I mean, it's not a big deal to waive them. I'm just wondering.
Well, why don't we defer that to our administrative side to kind of talk that through? And that seems like a reasonable discussion because we do waive quite a few of these, but I mean, they're for great civic opportunities, you know, whether it's, you know, high school music concerts or other pieces. So is that acceptable?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anything else on this subject before we vote? Let's go ahead and vote on this, on the motion to waive the fees for these 2 concerts. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, that motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sing loudly, or play loudly, excuse me.
I will talk loudly.
Right.
Which I always do anyway.
Item 11.2 is consideration to approve agreement between the City of Sturgis and the City of Somerset for animal shelter agreement. This is an agreement that's been in place for a couple years, and we've got our Public Safety Director, Jody Vandewater, is going to talk a little about it.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This slipped through the cracks on our to-do list, expired here December 31st, so we're playing catch-up. But this is a yearly agreement between the City of Sturgis, City of Somerset for our housing of their animals at our animal shelter. There's no changes for seed, we're just wanting to renew it, and there's no major budget impact. It doesn't cost us, it actually brings in some money for our shelter. And we'd ask for approval and authorization to have city administrator sign it.
Jody, is it reasonable to talk about these sorts of agreements and make sure that they had some language in them that said that, you know, if the parties didn't call it back, that they renewed?
Yeah, that might help for the fact that, you know, most of us are getting more and more on our plate every year, so we could probably look at updating that. Whether you want to do it now, we could do that now, or we can definitely do it on the next contract to December 31st.
Well, we don't have our legal representative would need to look at that and whatnot, so I think that's reasonable to look at down the road, but we have several agreements that essentially auto-renew on these, and this would be a good one. I mean, because we definitely want to maintain that relationship and take care of those animals in need, I guess.
Yep, I can definitely put that on my calendar for when Somerset Police Department and I renew it here at the end of the year.
Does anybody have any questions? Comments? Someone willing to motion on the contract with Somerset?
To approve the contract.
Second.
We've got a first by Alex, a second by Jesse to approve renewing the contract with the city of Somerset for animal control or animal shelter use. No changes to the previous contract. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion is carried unanimously. Item 11.3 is consideration to approve second reading of ordinance 2025-1, an ordinance amending Title 6, Chapter 3, Section 11 of the City of Sturgis Municipal Code to permit the establishment of a scatter garden at Bear Butte Cemetery.
Evening, Mayor, members of the council. Up for consideration tonight is a second reading of ordinance 2501. We did not have any changes from the first reading. Staff is recommending approval of this ordinance. This will allow us to open the scatter garden and have it operational just in time for Memorial Day, which has been our goal. I think that we were fortunate enough last week with the help of the fire department, so thanks to Chief Scott for helping us out. We did get that area burnt down. We got the fence installed today. Later this week, we'll get the aggregate pathway put in, and it should be good to go. We've finished everything as far as the Sims program and the burial search to be able to get it. It's ready to go and online, and it actually, we've got everything uploaded from the existing cemetery, so any of the plots you're able to search them. It will give you walking, driving directions to where you're looking for. So great enhancement to our cemetery. This ordinance does allow us to offer that service that we currently are unable to do with our current ordinance that does not allow for the scattering of any human remains other than in burial plots. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Just a comment from me. Thank you, Rick. I mean, this is certainly a piece that, I feel pretty strongly about, having had some different experiences through my life, working through some of the process and working with some people that were trying to deal with end of life for their loved ones. This provides a pretty affordable option for, having their loved ones have a permanent place and be on a register so that they can be, if somebody's doing genealogy research or something in the future, it locks things down. I think it's a great enhancement, and I think overall it's going to extend the life of our cemetery.
Right. Deb did a great job of, it's going to be in our monthly publication in our SIP this month, and she did a good write-up on it and what all the services provided and all the different things at the cemetery, kind of a recap of the presentation I gave at the last council meeting. So everybody should be looking for that in their news box.
Outstanding. Does anybody have any questions? Second reading of ordinance 2025-01. Somebody willing to motion approval of the second reading?
I'll make that motion.
We got a first by Jesse, a second by Jim to approve the second reading of ordinance 2025-01. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve this second reading indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Item 11.4 is consideration to approve and enter into an agreement with the state of South Dakota and the FAA for an airport infrastructure grant for the terminal.
Thanks, Mayor. If you give me just a minute, I think we've got a representative from the DOT Division of Aeronautics who is going to join us via video conference, and let me get him on the line.
As you work through that, the program that we're working with, the Airport Infrastructure Grant, is a federal program that provides us significant funding for a relatively small match.
Do you want us to elaborate?
Go
Is
ahead.
that
You
your
can get
role or
started.
the other person's role that,
John will probably be available to answer questions that you have of the state. But Bob Babcock from Helms and Associates, and also have Brooke Edgar from Helms and Associates. We are your airport engineers and here to answer any questions that you have. We did review the packet, and Aaron and Rick did a great job, I think. And if you read all 25 pages, I don't think you want us to read them to you. So we'd love to answer any questions that you have on those. We'll assume that you've looked at them, and we'd be glad to clarify anything, I guess.
please just summarize the scope of the project, would you?
John, are you on? Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you. Thanks.
Thanks, Danny.
Okay, so John Becker is actually with the Office of Aeronautics in Pierre. So he's the one for the state that kind of oversees the projects as well. So there's two projects on your list there tonight. The first one is a terminal project. We are under contract for design on that. Because it looked like it was going to be a little more spendy, we were contacted and asked to revise it to a renovation. And we did do that. You will be seeing an amendment from us because we don't need a water service now. So we are going to be reducing the cost of our design contract slightly. We still do need to fix the sewer service out there though. So it's not a big difference, but it is a difference. So we will be bringing you an amendment to that. Also, the second project then, we became aware of last summer, and it's a parallel taxiway for your runway. You've grown from about 34 aircraft there to nearly 105 aircraft out there, and they've got times where there's 4 or 5 aircraft waiting to go out onto the runway till one lands or takes off and gets out of their way, and then another one can go. And with the jets you got coming in, you got a couple jets out there. It's not as safe as it is with the smaller aircraft because they're coming in at faster speeds and you don't see them as quickly. So that was a concern for the FAA and John's office. And you got a couple of firsts going here. For me, I've been there 36 years and done a lot of airports. And in the 36 years, I've never seen the state take general fund money and put it towards airports. And they did last year, and that's how you're getting your terminal. A big chunk of your terminal grant is coming from a special state grant that has never been there before. It was a one-time deal. I guess they looked at some more this year, and I don't even remember how it ended up this year. But you did get money there. And then the other thing I've never seen happen is usually if you get discretionary funding, which is a special pot, it's 3 years. You have to be on the list for 3 to 4 years to get it. Well, when the FAA found out how many aircraft you had grown to and your concern there for a parallel taxiway, they told us to bump it up and they'd try to find the funds. And I've never seen that happen where in 1 year you got funds from the FAA. It's a huge thing for you because the next 2 years are at 97.5% grant. And normally that's at 95 between the state and the feds. So 2.5% on $5 million is a lot of city dollars that you can save by being able to take advantage of it too. So that's kind of the summary of it. Any technical questions, Brooke is going to be your person, and I'm going to pass it off faster than you ever seen.
Mayor, maybe I'll give, for the people who are online, and maybe just a quick background on what we're talking about. I know we kind of skipped over all the icing. So basically what we're up for consideration tonight are two different projects. We have an airport improvement grant, which is the terminal renovation. That application is due June 1st of 2025. And then we have the airport improvement project, which is the parallel taxiway design and construction. Application for that, actually, the deadline is April 28th of 2025. The terminal renovation project is estimated at about $495,000, with 95% of that cost paid by the Federal Aviation Administration, 2.5% paid by the state of South Dakota, and the remaining 2.5% by the city. The cost to the city is about $7,500. This original scope was used as part of the South Dakota Airport Transportation Funds for 60% of the construction, with the city's allocated bill funds to cover nearly all of the remaining project costs. We did hear from John, and John is online tonight from South Dakota DOT Division of Aeronautics. And he said at that time that there were some ongoing discussions with the South Dakota Aeronautic ATP funding timelines and considerations for extensions. However, none of those decisions, the last that we had talked with him, have been made. And I don't know, John, do you know any new information on that as of tonight?
No, I don't have any more information on that, but I'm apologize because I don't have some of my state information on my account right now because I'm at home. But to my knowledge, the agreement for the use of the terminal funds has all been taken care of. I think every aspect of it from my office is secured and that's ready to go. So I think your project is ready to go.
Perfect, thank you. The parallel taxiway project is estimated at $5,575,000 with FAA and state total of 97.5% of that, the city at 2.5%, totaling just shy of about $140,000 for the city. The cost in 2025 would be approximately $7,500 just for the project of design. Once that's done, we were hoping that this project would go to bid and construction would actually take place in 2026. So the remaining city funds would be due in 2026. This project was a priority from the FAA due to the safety concerns discussed a little bit ago with the runway incursions. I think that what we need to focus on tonight, or what the council needs to decide, is the budget impact for 2025. The city would only need to contribute about $7,500 for each of the projects, which is probably a good deal. I know that we had originally, when we had put the 2025 budget together, just like we spoke about at the beginning of the meeting, with the East Main and East Sherman project, we put all of our projects on hold to include the airport projects. I think that now, we're 5 months into the year, that we're a little bit more comfortable where our cash positioning is. We still don't know exactly, but we think that we're in a better spot than what we had originally thought going in when we were preparing the 2025 budget. I think that it makes sense for the council to consider the cost versus the reward on these two projects and probably move forward with them and allocate the funds, at least in 2025, to move forward with them. And then we would have to allocate, as part of the 2026 budget, the bigger portion of that, which is probably somewhere in that $150,000 range that we would have to allocate in 2026 for the parallel taxi runway project.
You know, these are projects that are going to happen at some point, one way or the other. And this is a pretty great opportunity to take advantage of significant funding.
Jesse, I think probably you've heard the same thing I have. If we don't do it now and take this advantage of all this savings, it may come up because of the increased traffic. We may have to come up with the entire $5 million if it were that little. I mean, it's going to go up, obviously, if we wait for the next couple of years. So it seems to me that we have the perfect opportunity, Rick, as you said, and especially since we're feeling more comfortable with the budget. Yeah.
With that, where would the funding for the 2025 come out of? I mean, the airport budget doesn't have $15,000 worth of,
It would have to come out of the capital improvement budget, portion of the budget, which these projects, actually, if you look back at the city's capital improvement project, these projects, we had at one time thought that we weren't gonna proceed at all with the terminal renovation, but again, for $7,500, it probably makes sense to get $500,000 worth of renovation. The parallel taxi is actually in the budget. It's just budgeted for 2026, and we need to pull a little bit of that out into 2025 to do that project, and then fully fund the rest of it in the 2026 budget. But we had planned for that in the upcoming years. That was scheduled in our capital improvement project.
And even for the terminal renovation, back in December of '23, the council approved the design process of that.
Yeah,
And
we have
that-
an existing contract.
And
for
at
it.
that point, that was on our, I was the chairperson for that committee, and we, we recommended that, and that was approved by the council back in '23. So we've already spent probably $5,500 on the design aspects of the renovation.
Yeah, good point. Thanks, Aaron.
good, thank you. Well, just identifying the funding sources, I think, is important, so.
I just wanted more of a commentary than a question. I know that I personally, I think Jim as well, have gotten to spend a little more time digging into this and the information, because we were part of the interview committee, I believe, in November for the engineers for the airport. So we've had more time to look at it, and I can appreciate all the time that y'all have spent putting together everything and the due diligence that Rick and Aaron and everyone has done on speaking to the appropriate people so that you could bring the right information to us, and bringing forward the concerns around safety and the actual data and the numbers behind it. So I would be in support of approving the motion for moving forward with the renovations for the terminal and the parallel runway project.
Is that a motion, Ruth?
I guess I would make a motion to approve.
Both contracts, the terminal reconstruction and parallel taxiway.
Yes. Both.
We've got a first by Ruth, a second by Jim to approve both projects funded under the Airport Infrastructure Grant Program for terminal reconstruction and parallel taxiway construction. Is there any further discussion? Anything from the,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Babcock, Brandon Bennett, Meade County News. Given what you've seen for growth at the airport and with this project, how many years down the road can you go before you have to consider doing more work?
It's a two-edged sword, because the growth is awesome, but with it is going to come continued areas needed, because to grow that fast, we don't think it's going to just cut off tomorrow. We think that there's something there that the people like, whether it's the customer service they're getting from your folks out there, or getting away from a larger airport somewhere. Something's drawing them. You just don't see that. You don't see that growth anywhere in South Dakota. So that's pretty cool. But with it, you're going to need to continue to have places to expand. So I think if you look at your CIP, your capital improvement plan, which we do meet with you guys, because it is your airport, not ours, and we want it to be the best it can be the way you want it. So, but I think you will see hangar expansion areas in the very near future after this. And our understanding is there's a couple jets that, once you do this, are going to commit to coming here full-time too. So it's pretty cool.
Which the expenses increase, but the income, right, also increases.
That's right.
and that's on leased ground, but the hangars are taxed property, so the Meade County Assessment Equalization Office assesses those hangars for their tax value, so we see income that comes in that form as well.
I'd like to make a comment on that question, because that's a great question, Brandon. And we've been thinking about this, how did we get to the situation, right? And they didn't talk about it tonight, but there's really no FAA criteria, but what they usually use is around 50 for an airport like us. Once you get past 50 aircraft that are stationed at the airport, you tend to have increased risk for some kind of mishap, either in the air or on the ground. And we're, we got validated 97, but mostly right around 105. The challenge for us, or the opportunity, is to have a plan on how we want to use and manage our airport. We really haven't had a detailed plan to be able to understand what our vision is, how we want the airport to incorporate into our community, and how much we want it to grow. Again, if you just allow it to grow like the wild, wild west, next thing you know, you're back in a situation where you have this risk that's going on. So our opportunity is to really form some kind of plan. And again, this could also be tied back to our comprehensive plan in terms of what our vision is and how we want the airport to be incorporated into our community, maybe how it can be an economic, help us out with economic development and whatnot. But we definitely need to be able to have some control on this. And so we're not in that situation again at some point in the future.
I was going to point out that the city of Sturgis has done an excellent job of taking the opportunity to take advantage in the last 5 years that we've been able to work with the city and the airport in taking advantage of these opportunities. Bob and I came here today to say that this is a unique opportunity, but when we first started working at the airport, March of 2020 hit. And COVID-19 hit. So there's the airport improvement program that we were talking about that is a 95% project funded on eligible projects, which comes from all aviation-related fees and taxes. So when you guys fly, all those extra fees and taxes go into this fund. So all of those funds are aviation-related. They're not coming from the general fund. But when COVID hit, there was some additional federal funding, and so one of our first projects was the T hangars that are out there. The city owns these buildings, and then they rent out those spaces, and it was 100% grant that the city took advantage of. They did the same thing the next year by building a taxi lane and being able to take advantage of those additional funds in that year as well. So. Bob and I figured just over $2 million worth of projects that were completed in those first few years that we started working with the city at a cost of about $17,000 to the city of Sturgis. So historically, you guys, since we've been around, have done a great job of taking advantage of those unique situations, and we just happened to come upon another one of those where a significant amount of aviation funds are giving us an opportunity to improve the airport. And as Mr. Jordan said, we can move forward with making a plan, focus on this next big project, but then make a plan as to what makes sense for the airport and capitalize on the next set of federal funds that become available when the time presents itself.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Comments? I'll call the question. The motion was made by Ruth, seconded by Jim.
Yes.
To approve the two projects funded through the airport infrastructure grant, the terminal reconstruction, the parallel taxiway. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion is carried unanimously.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, John. I appreciate you joining us on your day off.
Well, thank you for including me. I appreciate it.
Just one last comment, and that is that with this opportunity comes deadlines, and you will be seeing us feverishly working at this because we have to have them both done before June 16th, bids and everything, so we're going to leave and be busy. But we appreciate it. I think you guys are going to be really happy.
All right, continuing on our agenda, item 11.5 is consideration to approve the 2025 Sturgis Photo and Gifts Retail Licensing Agreement.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. As you said, the item I have for your consideration tonight is the retail license for Sturgis Photo and Gifts, which is now owned by Patch Stop Roadshows LLC. Included in this license, a one-year license, is the noon photo, the official noon photo, as well as a lease of the photo tower to accommodate that each day. Staff is requesting approval to proceed with the mayor's signing of this agreement.
Thank you, Lance. We've had an agreement with Patch Stop and Sturgis Photo and Gifts for quite some time.
That's correct.
Recently, that business combined under one owner. We've had good luck with them in the past. We've been good partners, have we not?
We certainly have had a great relationship there with both entities prior to this agreement.
Does anybody from council have any questions or concerns with this agreement? I will point out that I think there's more detail to this agreement than has previously been published on our agenda, and nice job with you guys being more open and communicative. Someone willing to make a motion on this agreement? Sounds like everybody's satisfied with it.
I'll motion to approve.
First by Rick to approve the agreement with Sturgis Photo and Gifts. Pardon me? Did I say what? Yeah, I did. Rick did not make the motion. Ruth made the motion. Right. And Jim seconded to approve the 2025 Sturgis Photo and Gifts Retail Licensing Agreement. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lance. That brings us to item 12. Executive session. I believe we only have one item on executive session. That's contractual. I think we'll be very quick to return. And so if we expect no action afterwards, there's none scheduled on the agenda as well. And I would entertain a motion to go into executive session for contractual reasons. Got a first by Nick. Second by Jim to go into exec. How about we make this quick and we just go across the hall so we save time and we can get back in here. Okay? We'll have no action afterwards. We need to vote on that. Those in favor of going into exec indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no.
bet.
He went out and worked in the yard with Papa. So Papa gave him some money for that. Yeah. So he thought that was great. Next time we say you're gonna help with the yard, yeah, he'll be over there.
Yep. Casper.
Casper.
I was trying not to, I don't know if we're broadcast or. Deb, are we on? Yeah, I'll have one for Sherry's cookies. I've had one before, and they're good. All right, we've returned from executive session. Is there a motion to go into regular session?
A motion.
Got first by Alex, a second by Nick to return to regular session. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Having no further business, I'll call us adjourned.